So, when you hear the word Renaissance, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably incredible art, right? Michelangelo, Da Vinci. But what if I told you that was just the surface? That the real story is so much bigger. We're talking about a complete revolution, a total shift in how people saw themselves, their world, and their own potential. So today, let's dive into that revolution of the mind.
This is really the heart of the whole story. You have to picture it. For centuries, life in Europe was, well, pretty set. You had a feudal system, the church was at the center of everything, and that was that. But then, around the 14th century, you start to see these cracks appearing in that old world. And from those cracks, something totally new, something vibrant, and something laser-focused on us, on humanity, began to bubble up. All right, first up, a world reborn. Let's just start with the word itself, Renaissance. It literally means rebirth. And yeah, you might think, rebirth of what? Old art? Ancient books? And sure, that was part of it. But the real rebirth, the big one, was the rebirth of the individual. The idea of what a single person could actually be.
And check this out. This rebirth, it didn't just happen quietly in some dusty old castle. No way. It exploded onto the scene in these bustling, chaotic, amazing cities. What you're looking at here is Florence around 1470. In places like this, everything was different. You weren't just a faceless subject living on some lord's land. You were a citizen. You were part of something. And that changes everything about how you see yourself and what's possible. Okay, so what was this change, really? Well, you can think of it as a conscious decision to hit the pause button on the Middle Ages and look way, way back to ancient Greece and Rome for a whole new set of operating instructions. It was a move away from a world where the church told you everything you needed to know and toward a radical new idea that you, the individual, could actually figure things out for yourself, that you could choose what to believe and how to live. That's a game changer. So, the big question is, why Italy? Out of all of Europe, what was it about this place that made it the perfect petri dish for this huge cultural explosion? Let's take a look at the engines that really drove this thing forward. Okay, take a look at this map. See how it's not one big country? After the Roman Empire crumbled, Italy was just a bunch of different pieces, a patchwork of city-states, each doing its own thing. Now, combine that with a huge boom in trade with the East, and suddenly cities like Venice and Florence are just swimming in money. They become incredibly rich, incredibly powerful, and most importantly, they're not answering to some king or emperor hundreds of miles away. They're their own bosses. And this quote right here, it gets to the heart of it. It's about how Venice was run, and it points to a massive power shift. See, for the first time in a long, long time, it wasn't just about who your dad was. Your bloodline didn't guarantee you power. Instead, you had wealthy merchants and bankers calling the shots. This was a whole new ballgame, a new kind of citizenship built on money, yes, but also on talent and on actually being involved in how your city was run. Okay, so you've got this new world of politics and money. Well, a new world needs a new way of thinking to go with it, right? And that new way of thinking was called humanism. This was really the intellectual engine that powered the whole Renaissance. So what exactly is humanism? At its core, it was all about diving back into the classics. You know, the writings of the ancient Greeks and Romans. But here's the twist. They weren't just reading them to find religious lessons. They were reading them to try and figure out what it means to be human. The humanists had this incredible belief in human potential. They thought that a good life, a full life, meant developing all your talents, asking questions, and getting into a good debate. And if you're looking for the poster boy for this whole humanist idea, well, here he is, Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, come on, the guy was an artist, a scientist, an inventor. He studied anatomy. His curiosity was just off the charts. They called him a disciple of experiment, which is perfect. He is the ultimate Renaissance man, the living, breathing proof that one person's potential can be quite literally limitless. And this is a really crucial point. This quote nails it. Humanism wasn't just about digging up old books and saying, well, Aristotle said it, so it must be true. Not at all. It was about using those ancient ideas as a springboard. It was about using your own brain, your own powers of reason, and engaging in debate to figure out the truth for yourself. It was active. It was all about questioning everything. It was profoundly individual. So what happens when you completely change how you think about the world? Well, you start to see the world differently too. And that's exactly what happened.
This revolution of the mind directly led to an absolutely mind-blowing revolution in art and science. I mean, just look at this. This is the famous Duomo in Florence. To build this thing, the architect Brunelleschi couldn't just be a good builder. He had to be an inventor, an engineer, a genius-level mathematician. This is the moment the artist stops being just a craftsman and becomes an intellectual, a thinker, who blends art and science to create something that people thought was literally impossible. And you can see this new obsession with realism so clearly in these works. Artists weren't just painting flat, symbolic figures anymore. Forget that. They became scientists of the human body. Just look at the detail in Dürer's praying hands. You can almost feel the bones and veins. Or look at Michelangelo's Pieta. The emotion, the grief, the anatomical perfection, it's breathtaking. This isn't just pretty art. It's a deep dive into the human experience, scientifically and emotionally.
Now, ideas this big, this powerful, they don't just stay in one place. They're like a wildfire. So for our final section, let's look at how the sparks from the Italian Renaissance jumped borders and set the rest of the world alight, really kicking off the modern age. So what was the accelerator? What poured gasoline on this fire? Technology. Specifically, Gutenberg's printing press. You have to understand, this was the internet of its day. It was a total revolution. Before this, every book was copied by hand. It was slow, expensive, and easy to control. But now, suddenly, books, and more importantly, the ideas inside them, could be mass-produced and spread like crazy, way beyond the control of the church or any king. And once those ideas were out, boy, you couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. The consequences were huge. That humanist idea of questioning authority, that leads directly to Martin Luther and the Protestant Reformation. That focus on observing things for yourself and using reason, boom, that leads to the scientific revolution. You get Copernicus saying, hey, maybe the Earth isn't the center of everything, and eventually you get Isaac Newton figuring out the fundamental laws of physics. You see? The Renaissance didn't just give us beautiful paintings. It literally built the foundation of the modern world. So that brings us to one last big question. The Renaissance put its faith in us. It was this incredible bet on human potential, on our ability to reason, to create, to be better. It took humanity out of the background and put us right at the center of the universe. So looking around at the world today, at everything we've achieved and everything we failed at, you have to wonder, have we lived up to that potential?